Today I'm talking with Joana Fonseca Orvalho, mentor at Mentors for Women and a career coach. Joanna works with high achieving women in the corporate world who feel stuck, lost, or demotivated. Joanna grew up in Portugal watching her father in banking and decided early that she would do the same. She studied economics, started her career in a Portuguese bank, then followed a city she had fallen in love with and moved to London in 2008. Over the next decade, she worked as a market analyst, a financial dealer, and an internal auditor, qualifying along the way as a chartered certified accountant. Her career she had dreamed of slowly stopped feeling like the career she wanted. The hours got longer, the autonomy got smaller, and she started asking herself what value she was actually adding. A coach helped her step back. That conversation eventually let her retrain and build her own business, helping other women have the same kind of honest look at their working lives. If you are seeking a mentor, reach out to Mentors for Women to explore working with Joanna or another vetted mentor from our global community. You'll be matched with the right mentor for leadership, career, life transition, creativity, or business growth. Joanna, you decided as a young woman in Portugal that you wanted career in banking, like your father. What pulled you to it then, and what did you imagine life would look like?
Since I was 3 years old, I've decided that I wanted to be a banker. What pulled me towards it was, above all, an admiration for my father. I looked at him and I thought of success. He was the bread maker in our house as well. So I've associated it with everything that I've seen it as positive, a strong personality, a high achieving person, status, money, everything. So for me, that was the version of success, really. And I think I've envisioned exactly that for myself, like what success looks like on paper, I would say. Going up the career ladder, having the title, having the money, having the status associated with working in a big organization, in the corporate world, and so on. So that's exactly how I envisaged. And I think as a young girl, I looked at it and thought that is success. If that looks like success inside, I'm going to feel successful and happy. So that's exactly how I've pictured it as a young girl.
You moved to London in 2008 because you had fallen in love with the city. That is a big leap to take for a place rather than a job. What was that move actually like?
It was a combination of excitement, freedom, living life to its fullest, leaving everything behind, coming by myself, mixed with uncertainty. We have all these expectations. We think it's going to be something, and then reality sometimes is not exactly how we've pictured it. But yeah, it was an exciting move. I still live in London. I've been here for so many years now. And I still love the city. I have a big passion for the city. And one of the things that defines me as a person and in everything that I do is that passion leads the way. So if I feel very passionate about something, I feel a pull towards it. And I always feel like it's almost kind of bigger than I am. I need to follow it. So I've done that. And yeah, so the move was great. I enjoy the city. I think it opened my horizons into many areas of life, including on the professional side. I think I wouldn't do what I did today if I wasn't in London, even though theoretically, as a coach, you work online, you can be anywhere in the world. But the reality is, London opened you up for so many possibilities, both from a personal side, a professional, the fact that we have a better quality of life, you experience different roles, you speak with so many different people, so many different cultures. And I think that by itself allowed me to think a little bit beyond the banking bubble, as I call it. So yeah, so I do think it plays a key role in who I am today, and it was a very exciting move that I don't regret it at all.
Climbed through some demanding roles, becoming a financial dealer, a market analyst, and then a qualified chartered certified accountant. At what point did you notice the love affair with banking had turned into something else?
I think it was a gradual type of feeling rather than a big haha moment. I think with time, I started to discover myself and I started to evolve as a person. And as I've mentioned before, I'm led by passion and I need to have an interest in doing whatever I do. I'm a very energetic person. So if I do something that I don't enjoy, it truly drains me. And in the same way, when I do something that I enjoy, it really excites me and fills me up with energy. So with time, I started to feel that actually going to work, what used to really excite me, all the cliches, the working long hours, the being busy, the going on the tube like a sardine type of thing, that excited me. It was part of the life, right, that I thought for myself. And with time, it started to drain me. And I think it was an evolution in the fact that I've almost kind of proved to myself I could be a banker, I could have all of those roles. But then inside of me, I was starting to crave something a little bit more meaningful. When you work in a big corporation, sometimes, well, not sometimes, right? 99% of times, for those of us who work in big corporations, decisions are based on money. It doesn't have the human touch, it doesn't have the personality. And as I've evolved as a person, as a woman, I wanted to become a mom. I think all of those elements on an emotional side started to really kind of have a weight on me and thinking, I need more of the human touch in my professional life. And with that, it was gradual to starting to feel that actually what I've envisaged to me, what was my dream, I was living it, but it was not fulfilling any longer. So the dream itself, it had evolved alongside myself, and I had to pursue that now.
What I love about that you're not resisting getting new dreams, you're getting new passions, you're creating a new meaning. So it's not just one meaning or one dream, but the one dream was for one season in your life, and then you went for the other. You were not resisting it and trying to fight that new season, one season ending and new season starting with a different kind of a meaning, and you created all that.
I always say when I talk to my clients, when I talk to friends, life goes through phases, goes through cycles. And I think we should embrace those when different cycles bring different needs and different desires and different dreams. And I think if you always have the same dream, it means that actually you're not quite evolving as a person. And we always are. So it's just about acknowledging that and be open to it, not be thinking, oh my God, why is this now different? I've worked so hard. I shouldn't let that go. I cannot look at like in a different direction. No, it's part of life. It's part of evolving. It's part of experiencing life. So yeah.
You have said you started asking yourself, what value am I adding? That is a hard question to sit with when you have built a whole identity around a career. How did you work through it?
Well, it was tough, I'll be honest. I think for me personally was the hardest element is the identity piece because it's almost who you are. Like you don't say I do banking, you say I am a banker. It's so linked to who you are internally that was really, really hard. But I think it was about the fact that, as I mentioned, embracing the new emotions, be open to it, be really attuned to what you're really feeling and accepting it. And of course, this is a lot easier said than done. It took me a long time. I'm not going to lie. It took me years to be open to those emotions and to acknowledge that actually this doesn't make me happy any longer. I kind of need to move on. I always compare it to a bad relationship. If you've been married a very long time, it's hard to let go. It's hard to move on and realize actually this no longer does me good. I need to move on to the next one. So it's linked through that. But I've been through a lot of self-discovery. I've been through a lot of self-reflection. And above all, I've also been through action, and I'm a big believer in action. So it's about taking small steps, and some small steps can be reflecting at the end of the day, can be having a conversation with someone that has a completely different life to see if you would enjoy it or not. But it was about that. It was about embracing that actually it is okay to feel that whatever you thought it was the best life for you in the past no longer fits you. It is okay to have different thoughts. It is okay to really go into a different direction. No one is going to be questioning why you're doing it, and no one's going to be thinking less of you. You're just following your own path. So it's about that, and it's about letting go of these expectations that we have of ourselves and that we believe that others have on us as well.
I loved about that you said that you are following your passion. So passion is an emotion. However, you said that it took years to reflect it. So you combined the emotional data with other reflections like thinking, and you combine that just to confirm your data and made decision. Career change is a very big decision. So you still did that, not based on just how you felt on a day or two or a week, but you really wanted to think through it.
Yes, I think it is important to not be too impulsive when there is big decisions in life. I'm also a very logical person alongside being quite emotional. So I do think about applying the reality to the emotions, if that makes sense. It's not just, oh, I don't like this. I'm going to quit today and then I'll figure it out tomorrow. No, there's implications in life. Okay, right? In terms of lifestyle, and then how you're going to live if you don't have a job, particularly if you have a family or mortgage to pay, these sort of things. So this is also something that I really encourage my clients to do. We tend to start with the emotional side because that's really the raw feelings, the raw desires, but then we apply a reality lens to it and we say, okay, from those raw emotions, let's apply your own reality. Right? Where do you live? What job opportunities do you have available to your door? What connections do you have? Can you afford to, for example, a client that wants to open a business? Can you afford to quit your job now and focus on your business? Or actually, that is not an option. So therefore, let's make a plan to do it alongside, the same way that I did with my coaching business. I didn't quit banking and start coaching. I did it in parallel before it was financially stable for me to leave banking. So it's about having all those kind of emotions, but then saying, okay, I can be open to it, I can follow my heart, but let me do it in a safe, realistic manner. That's very important.
You had a coach of your own who helped you step back and rethink. What did she do that made the difference, and how does that shape the way how you coach women now?
I think the key thing back then, because this was many years ago, and I haven't even discovered coaching by the time that I had a coach. I discovered while I was being coached. It was the space to really truly reflect. We live in a very fast-paced environment in our lives. We always have things going on professionally, personally. And I think just having the space to think about our own lives, reflecting, and being asked some really hard questions, very basic questions in a way, about how you're feeling. How do you see your life? How do you see your career in 10 years' time? How are you going to feel about it? Which, in a way, when we look back, they're not very convoluted questions. They are quite basic, but they are very punchy questions. They're really the key ones. They made me truly reflect into who I was, how I was truly feeling, and if I continue in the exact same pattern, how I would be feeling in some years' time. And that really puts things into perspective and made you start thinking, ooh, maybe this is not the right path for me any longer. Now that for me was key, was the fact that it was the space, it was the questions, and also she was not giving me any answers. I think that's really important in a coach is allowing the space for you to figure it out, because that brings a lot of empowerment, and also everyone is very different. So whatever I might perceive as being the right next step for someone or the right thing to do at that moment in time might not be the right thing for them, because everyone is different and everyone interprets life in a different way. Everyone feels different things. So allowing that kind of the key questions and then allowing for everyone to figure it out their own step, that's very, very important. So yeah, my coach in particular, that's what she kind of opened up for me.
You work with women in 90-day blocks, and you talk about action over endless self-reflection. Why that time frame and why that emphasis?
So the 90 days is a time that I believe it's enough to have both practical little steps to start, but also allows for reflection. Anytime less than that, we don't really have the reflection time. Sometimes, like the expression sleep on it, it is important. We need to figure out potentially the next step, but we need time to emotionally and internally digest things to truly understand if there is the right time, if it is the right step to do. So that time frame really allows for that. It allows for a lot of self-discovery, but allows for the reflection. In terms of the action over endless thinking, I'm very logical and I am a very practical person. And if we keep on thinking about things, we will dwell on it. We dwell and we dwell and we dwell. And in reality, chances are we're not going to do anything if we keep on going in that cycle. So action will force you to figure out some answers as well. Because without action, let's say I'm thinking about changing careers and become a coach, for example, exactly like I did. If I haven't spoken to other coaches, if I was just dwelling on it, I'll never really realize what coaching was all about, how it was the day to day, what are the challenges, what are the big advantages. So we need small action. We don't need to have a big bang, but we need action because action will inform the next step as well. So it brings a lot of clarity. So I'm a big believer in action.
You coach both in English and Portuguese. Do you notice different patterns in what women bring to you depending on where they come from, or is the stuck feeling fairly universal?
I coach in both languages mainly because I'm fluent in both languages, and there are for sure cultural differences. Even in between English-speaking countries, sometimes there are cultural differences that come with primarily with our upbringing and with the fact that some countries, by the nature of their own economy, have more job opportunities than others. So I do notice massive differences there. If you are in a city like London or New York, you have a lot of opportunities, a lot of job opportunities. The way that I work with the clients, they have a very wide range of the next steps they can take, and it feels a lot easier than if you are, for example, from Portugal, where the work market is a lot smaller. So it does come with that, and the way that you were brought up in terms of roles and so on. But the stuck feeling itself, I would say, is hugely universal. The feeling of I'm lost, I feel like I'm alone. I have no idea what to do next, but I've worked so hard to get here. How can I possibly turn my back to this and do something else, even though I'm totally unhappy at the moment? So that type of feeling is very, very universal. Unfortunately, it affects every single person, every single client I've worked with. So yes.
What is the one thing you would want a woman watching this who knows something needs to change to take away?
I want them to first to realize they're not alone. This is quite a common feeling. Even though maybe we don't speak openly about it, it's very, very common. So there's nothing wrong with you. It's common. And also to do something about it. Life is too short. It's not worth being unhappy, being stuck in a position, in a role that you absolutely hate. There is something for sure that you can do that brings you more joy and still brings you the money that you want. So I would say that don't feel that you are alone and take some action. Google something. Start to talking to people, but make a little step today, baby steps, and you can get there.
Thank you so much, Joanna, for this conversation.
Oh, my absolute pleasure.